Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is the Rapid Fire book tag. So the Rapid Fire book tag was created by Camila, hopefully I'm saying that right, over at Girl Reading, and I believe I was tagged a while ago for this by Mark over at Book Time with Elvis. It's been a while since I have done tag videos. Essentially, my time for filming got incredibly condensed, and my priority is always to just put out things about books, the things that I'm reading. So I kind of had to pull back from filming tags, although I do enjoy them. So I am trying to get back into them, and I'm looking at my backlog and I'm going through them, and I thought this one seemed like a pretty quick one that I would be able to do, in the short amount of time that I usually have for filming. So here are the questions. These are supposed to be just very brief questions that the answerer can get through in a pretty decent amount of time. So to begin, ebooks or physical book? I say physical book only because I don't have an e-reader. I don't like reading off of computer screens. If I had a Kindle or an e-reader of some kind that was, of course, portable, I would probably end up liking it a lot. I just don't have experience with that. Paperback or hardback? For the shelf, I like hardback. For reading, I do like trade paperback, especially those nice floppy covers. That's my preferred reading method. But to keep for long term, I do love a good hardback. In-store or online shopping? Well, both. Of course, during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of online shopping. But we do have a local bookstore that's not too far away from me that I've been going back to again, and got a little bit more income where I can actually buy some books. So I've been trying to, give them my patronage. I do like used book sales from libraries or going to used bookstores. I like that. So I do like the experience of going into a physical bookstore and getting something. And also, I don't run the risk of the package, if I order online, coming, destroyed. And the way that Amazon packages things, I just never know what the book's going to look like when it arrives. So I like the convenience of online, but I also like my books to be in good condition. Next one, trilogies or series? This is more of a question for people who read a lot of fiction, which I mostly read nonfiction, although in the past year or so, actually more than a year, I've been reading a lot more fiction. I've been making a specific, effort to do that. So at this point, I would say trilogy. I don't like the idea of just an ongoing series that I don't know when it's going to end. That's just not the kind of reader that I am, at least the kind of books that I gravitate towards. So I'd like to know that there's an end in sight if I'm going to start something, and that the author knows how it's all going to end. Heroes or villains? I gotta say villains. I'm a big horror fan. I like monsters. I think, sometimes the villain is oftentimes the most interesting part of a story. So, yeah, I'm going to say villains. A book you want everyone to read? I wasn't sure how to answer this one when I saw it. The one that comes to mind, I know why. It's Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo. A real anti-war novel, written, I think, in the 1930s, I believe, about a soldier in World War I who an explosive goes off next to him, and he loses all his limbs, he loses his face. The only sense that he has is touch, and the doctors who are keeping him alive think that he's brain dead, and he's not. And the whole book is just basically stream of consciousness, what's going on inside his mind. And I just remember reading that book and being floored. And he at one point says in the book, I wish that they would just put me on display in the Capitol building or something like that. I'm kind of paraphrasing based on memory. He said if everybody saw me, maybe they would never want to go to war again. And I almost feel like, if people read that book, maybe they'd have a very similar impulse. So yeah, everybody read Johnny Got His Gun. Recommend an underrated book. I'm just going to go for the same thing. I'll say the same thing. Johnny Got His Gun. I don't know. I don't have a good sense of what other people's views are on books. Aside from what I see on BookTube and the channels that I follow, I am not somebody who has my finger on the pulse of the literary community. So I don't know if that is a book that is underrated, overrated, or what, but that's just going to be my answer for that. The last book you finished, that would be an audiobook. I finished the autobiography of Captain Janeway, which is part of Book Trek 2021, where myself and some other co-hosts are going through Star Trek books from August until December. And the last one that I actually physically finished reading would have been Vathek by William Bedford, the kind of gothic orientalist fantasy novel from the late 18th century. One that is interesting, although I didn't necessarily find it enjoyable. The last book you bought. I just went to the bookstore the other day and I got Alaric the Goth. I think the subtitle was The Fall of the Roman Empire from an outsider's perspective, something like that. I think I butchered that subtitle, but that's essentially what it was. It's unfortunately upstairs. I didn't have a bunch of prop books when I sat down to film this. Yeah, Alaric the Goth is the last one that I bought, and that was just yesterday at the bookstore. Weirdest thing you've used as a bookmark? I don't know. I don't know about the weirdest. Depending on where I'm reading, I know in the past there's times when I've used toilet paper. But sometimes I've used, if there's like a shirt around, I might just stick it in the pages, just so I don't lose my spot, until I can actually find a bookmark. Used books, yes or no? Yes, absolutely. So long as they're in decent condition and they're not written or highlighted in. I don't like that. I mean, if there's like an old signature on the front or something, somebody's name with like a date, I'm totally fine with that, but I don't like a bunch of underlining and highlighting in my books. Top 3 favorite genres. If history is a genre, that is my go-to. That's the thing I love reading the most. So that would be my answer for that one. For number 1. Second would be horror. I'm trying to read more literature. I didn't get to quite as much as I wanted to this year, but I think I'll be getting through some more of it next year. And for third, I'm not sure. I've read some sci-fi and I like it. I've read some fantasy and I like it. Probably fantasy at this point, although I do want to try historical fiction more. I've only read a little bit of historical fiction, but I feel like I might really end up liking that. So that'll probably end up taking third once I read more. Borrow or buy? I'd rather just buy. I'd rather just own the thing, and I don't want to have to give it back. And same thing, I don't like borrowing or lending books out to people. If they really like the book that I'm reading or they're curious about it, I'll just buy them a copy. That's where we get into the used things. I usually look for, when I go to a library book sale, sometimes I'll look for books that I think other people will like that I've read, and I'll just pick them up really cheap there and give them out. But yeah, I'd rather just buy a book. Characters or plot? Of course, I like both. I think both are important, but I think I might be more of a plot-driven person. I know that, I've read some books where I think there's some interesting characters, but I'm just not getting into the plot or what's going on or where the story is being taken for me. And I feel like I'm less forgiving of that. Rather than, I can have some characters that are okay, but the plot is awesome. So I guess I'm a little more plot heavy. Long or short books? I'd say short books. I like that little satisfaction of finishing things. And also, I'm the father of 2 small children. Well, sort of small. My son is 9. My daughter's 5. And that cuts down on the amount of time I can devote to reading. So short works just work better for my unfortunately short attention span. It's not necessarily a naturally short attention span. It is imposed on me because of all the distractions. So I do like short works. And this goes into the next question, which is long or short chapters. So same reason, short chapters I like because I can kind of hit it in little snippets along the way and then, go tend to my children if I have to. And of course, I like my children. I like tending to them, but I'm sure any parent who's watching this knows exactly what I mean. Name the first 3 books you think of. So I personally didn't think of anything before this, so I don't have anything in my head. The Sword in Anglo-Saxon England, Moby Dick, and Frankenstein. I don't know why I chose those 3. I haven't read Moby Dick yet. So, but those are the three that popped into my head. Books that made you laugh or cry. I've never cried from a book. I have laughed. Uh, Not always, not always because the book is purposefully funny. Even sad books can have funny parts. Like currently reading "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee," which is filled with just heart-wrenching cruelty. But there's one point where they describe he describes a Native American who's, I guess he sees like a train for the first time, one of those iron horses, and he tries to stop it with a rope. And instead of course stopping it, he gets pulled off his pony and dragged for a while. And I laughed pretty hard when I when I read that. And I didn't feel bad about laughing because later on, I think that same Native American, if I remember correctly, derailed the train and killed a bunch of people. So yeah, it's okay to laugh at him. But it's not a funny book, but I laughed. Our world or fictional worlds? I mean, I have nothing against fictional worlds. I do like exploring those worlds, but overall, I do like our world. It goes back to my love of history, and I think that our world is filled with innumerable wonders. I think fiction is terrific, but so far I have not exhausted the wonder that I feel from our own world. Audiobooks, yes or no? Yes. I do like audiobooks a lot. I wasn't listening to them a lot this year, but I think I'm going to change that. I'm going to start listening to them again. Like I just listened to that Star Trek one, but I think I'm going to employ audiobooks more. I do like the immersive reading. I like, listening to the reader on the audiobook while I have the book in front of me and I'm reading. I don't like listening to audiobooks I don't have a physical copy of. Even if I listen to some audiobook, I'll go back and skim those pages that I listen to see if there's, it could be illustrations, footnotes, or I just kind of want to see how it was written. So any audiobook that I listen to, I also am looking at the physical copy. And I do think that listening to audiobooks is a skill. Some of the criticism I hear about audiobooks is that, somebody else is making all the choices for you in reading. But I don't feel like, when I'm first hearing about it, but I could always kind of repeat those things in my head in a different way, or I can go back to the text and distinguish between the way somebody read something to me and the way I would have read it otherwise. I think that audiobooks are, just like any other thing, a skill that you can kind of get better at to block out some of that noise or those distractions. I've listened to some audiobooks where the narrator is awful, but I'm still enjoying the book. The narrator is just a funnel. He's just a siphon for me. He's not the actual experience, and I can kind of separate those two things in my head. So yeah, I do like audiobooks quite a bit, and I think I'll be using them a little bit more going forward. Do you ever judge a book by its cover? Certainly. Yeah, the covers are marketing. They let me know who the target audience is, and maybe I'm not that target audience. And that's okay. It's okay to have books that are for me and books that are not meant for me. People, who are another audience can certainly have their fun. But yeah, I think a cover can tell me a lot about what the intention is, if not of the author, at least of the publisher, and who they expect to read a book. Now, would I not read a book because I didn't like the cover? No, of course not. I would certainly read it, but if I heard stuff about it. But covers are how my eye is drawn to my next selection. So I have to judge a book by its cover. I don't really have any other choice. Book to movie or book to TV adaptations. The choice between the two, I say book to movie because I don't watch much TV at all. Very rarely do I watch TV just because it's a time constraint thing. I don't have a lot of time to watch series. People always tell me about these awesome series I have to see. I don't have the hours to spend watching that. And also I co-host a horror movie discussion podcast. So usually if I'm sitting in front of a screen, if I'm sitting in front of a television, I'm watching a horror film. And I love horror films. So that's not a problem to me at all. And I'd rather be spending my time doing that than investing many, many, many hours in a series that I might not even like how it ends. Yeah, please. Movies, much quicker experience for me. A movie or TV show you preferred to its book. I just mentioned I'm a horror fan. I mean, I would say one of them would be the Amityville Horror. Um, the movie, I'm talking about the original movie from the late 70s. Um, and it's not like a masterpiece. It's not a great film, but I think it's a solid haunted house film. I enjoy it, certainly. And the book is schlock. The book is just not good at all. But I think that the movie definitely improves on the book. And considering the movie's not great, that says a lot. So, yeah, there's quite a few instances like that. And the last one is series or standalones. Kind of for reasons that I've said already. My time is my time is precious to me. I'd rather just have a standalone and not have to worry about wasting my time with a series. Not that I wouldn't try it, but I wouldn't do it on a whim, certainly. And that is it. That is the rapid fire book tag. So thank you to Camila for creating this tag. And Mark, I believe that you tagged me in this, so thank you to you for tagging me. And thank you, BookTube.